yeas and nays. I did tell you that today we're going to be talking about open budgets. Yes, Nigeria's ranking globally when it comes to transparency and openness of our budgets. And I think that almost half my life, which is half of almost my career, I've continuously spoken about open budgets. It's like every other year I just talk about it, and it seems like it falls on deaf ears. But well, maybe my guest will help us to make sense of it. Iniobong Usen is the head research and policy advisory of Budgit and joining us via Zoom from the FCT, I gather. Thank you for joining us, Ini. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me once.
Great. I don't know how I feel. I mean, but it's not about me. It's about the Nigerian people. For so long, I've spoken about open budgets. I've attended seminars, search for common ground. We've talked about open action aid. We've just been talking about open budgets. And I think the biggest question is, why is it so difficult for our budgets to be open enough? And of course, followed to the latter. But you're not the government, so you might not be able to answer that question. But let me just quickly give my audience a background. Now, recently, the Budget put out a report on, of course, Nigeria backsliding on its fiscal transparency and ranks 92nd in Open Budget Survey Global Index, meaning that we're not growing. We're not going higher to try to see if we can do better. Well, Budget actually put out a long report. I don't want to go into it. That's why Ini is here. He's going to give us, explain to us in detail why Nigeria is where it is and our level of transparency. So, Ini, why did Budget decide to take on this challenge? I know that with Tracker, there's a lot of information out there for people to, chew on and maybe use it to hold their leaders accountable. But why has Budget taken on this particular responsibility?
Yeah, thanks so much. And thanks for putting this, on the front burner. It's very important. Let's take it from why transparency is even important, right? Transparency is, actually very essential to any thriving democracy. If you look at countries across Africa where there has been democratic backsliding, you would see that there's been some backsliding also around transparency. There's very little information, right, available to the public to be able to make informed political choices, to be able to actively participate in governance, to be able to hold their governments to account. Transparency allows people like you, who is in the media, people like myself, who works with civil society, to assess government, vis-a-vis its political commitments, its political promises. It helps you put that check, on government not to abuse power, as the case may be. And so it's a very essential ingredient for any thriving democracy, or it's very, 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 very important to the sustenance of any democracy. And why are we having this discussion today? Over the last, I would say, 14, 15 years, Nigeria enacted what we call some sunshine laws, right? They are laws that, put the touchlight on government activities, like that allows people have an idea of how exactly government is run, how government raises revenue, how it spends, right? So we passed the Freedom of Information Bill, I think in 2011 into law, that empowered citizens to approach any government agency, ask for information regarding government projects, setting budget lines, anything that government is doing on behalf of the people. That law mandated people, or empowered people to be able to access those documents. Whether that law has been fully operationalized is a different ballgame entirely. But there's been an improvement from the period where these sort of sunshine laws were not available and now. But there's still a lot of room for progress. Aside the Freedom of Information Bill, you had other laws like the Public Procurement Law that mandates government to publicly publish, contracts awarded, bids, and all of that. That gives people an inkling as to how government is going about public procurement. You have the Fiscal Responsibility Act that mandates entities of government to put out their financial reports at the end of a fiscal
Every
year,
fiscal
and
year.
mandates government to also put out its quarterly budget implementation reports. And the use case for all of this is so that citizens, accountability actors, like the media, even law enforcement, can ensure that Nigerians at the end of the day get value for money. And that cannot happen if citizens do not play an active role in how government raises revenue, how it spends those revenues, and how it accounts for those revenues.
I want to ask you a question. I can tell my listeners' voices, playing in my head, and I just finished having a very mind-boggling conversation. So the average person will say, yes, okay, while using tracker, we know this information and that information. How do we get them to be accountable? Because these people don't even care about us. Someone even said that to me today, that no matter what they do, these guys don't care. So where does the issue of accountability come in here? Because yes, you must ask for transparency, but then you do that through asking for accountability. So this is what you promised. This is what you've delivered. Why? But who's going to answer to it when even the ones who are supposed to be passing the laws, their constituency offices are never accessible?
And I mean, this is a valid concern, but I will get to the accountability part, because transparency comes before accountability.
Yes.
And I'd like to use an example of, what is popular in the public domain at the moment, which is the issue around the minimum wage. Now you ask yourself, what is the basis for the negotiations that are going on, right? The federal government and the states have a salary structure. The whole conversation that has been in the public domain has been around minimum wage. But very little, number of persons know that within the federal civil service or the state civil service or local government civil service, as the case may be, there's progression horizontally and vertically. So if you are grade 1, level 1, for instance, there are 15 steps you have to go through before you get to grade 2, level 2. And you come all the way down to grade 17, where you now have level 9 as the highest before you retire. Now, if you are going to ask government to pay a particular sum, how do you know that government has the capacity to pay vis-a-vis what it raises as revenue, if you don't know the number of civil servants you have in the state who are at each grade on each step, right? So if government says it doesn't have the money to pay, what is the basis for it saying that, right? You as labor, what are you using to negotiate? Is it just a blanket request you are making that is not informed based on data that is available, right? So transparency allows you even take informed opinions on issues. If I take another issue, which is with the Lagos-Calabar coastal road, nobody knows how much that road is going to cost. Nobody knows how much has been appropriated in the budget for that road. There's very little around procurement, what has been paid, what has not been paid.
There's nothing. There's nothing in terms of procurement.
So how do you even get to the conversation around holding government accountable if you can't even see the figures, right? So the transparency conversation is very, 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 very important because it allows us to take very informed positions. We're able to, approach government with key asks from an informed point of view. And I get the frustration, of Nigerians with regards to the fact that, over the years, people have seen how corruption, pervades society, the different forms, it manifests, and then there's very little that has been done in that regard to cater to that particular problem that, is at the heart of, where we found ourselves as a country. But the truth is, corruption actually thrives in the dark, right? Where there's no touchlight around what's happening, it's very easy for corruption to thrive. And so let's not belittle the conversations around transparency, whilst we're still looking for ways where, people who have held offices on behalf of the entire state are held accountable. And it cuts across, different sectors, different layers, The judiciary has a role to play. Law enforcement has a role to play.
Yeah.
See, these things, the media, has a role to play by staying on the issues. Because when you are not on the issues, it's easy for these things to go under the carpet.
Absolutely.
I know how many instances where it was staying on the issue that led to the suspension of, certain officers, that led to the prosecution, around certain cases. So it's important that, we keep the torchlight on some of these issues, and at a time, at a point, time T in the future, all of this would make sense.
Let's talking about turning on the light or switching on the light on these issues, or putting the searchlight on these issues. Yesterday, the Punch newspaper released a report that it carried out on 30 governors who spent 968.64 billion naira on refreshment and other issues in 3 months. Since we're turning on the light, this is a great thing that the media has done. Of course, the newspaper itself has done. But now that we have this information, we're talking solutions now. How do we get them to be transparent? Because they cannot sincerely tell us that they're doing jaye in all the government houses and using these monies for refreshment. It obviously is coming under a subhead of sorts. I mean, and it's the most convenient way to tuck that money in. But how do we probe these kinds of things when we see these ambiguous or sometimes bogus things in the budgets?
From the point of the citizen, I would even come from the angle of how do we even apply pressure, right? How are government officials comfortable enough to carry on governance with this arbitrariness, and they feel very comfortable in their homes? They feel very comfortable driving along the streets, going to their villages, and there's no fear of revolt. It tells you how docile a populace we are as a regards, holding government to account, or how we've not been able to connect, how our lives and livelihoods are to the conduct of political office holders, as the case may be. It just seems as if we give them so much leeway to be able to do what they do, and there's very little pushback from the public. People have been beaten to the point where we just take things the way they are, and everybody goes about their business, hoping that one day things would change. But if we take lessons from, where change has really happened, right? It happened through revolution. There were people who decided that the country couldn't go on the way it did, and then drastic measures had to be taken. But as it is, it would seem that Nigerians have been beaten into submission, as the case may be. If you look at public discourse, these issues are not what populate maybe social media, for instance, right? Some other social issues are what you would see populate the space, and it just tells you that people have not taken these things as important as it should be. People have not taken it as a matter of life and death. And if that pressure is not coming from citizens, from the demand side, as the case may be, the supply side is fine with just staying silent, doing their 4 years, and moving on. And it becomes a vicious cycle.
Which it is as we speak. Also, just still talking about shining the light, we keep reporting these things anyways. There's also apprehension because in the 1 year that Mr. President has been president, the federal government has borrowed 20.1 trillion naira. 20.1. The question is, to do what? What have these monies been used for? Or what are they being put forward for? These are the questions we should be asking, but unfortunately, we're not getting answers. So
so these are the legacy issues around transparency we're talking about. So for the over the last 1 year, we've not seen any budget implementation report from the federal government. The most recent budget implementation report is that for the first quarter of 2023. So what it means is all of the funds that have been spent from April 2023 till date, we have no clue as to those funds, how those funds, were spent. If you also look at the Open Treasury portal that puts out information on the fiscal accounts of government, the most recent information on that portal is that for August 2023 with regards to the fiscal accounts. So meaning from September till date, We have no clue as to, what the gains, for instance, government has made from subsidy removal, right? The savings it has made. We have no clue, as it regards what is that saved as a result of also discontinuing the FX subsidy. We have no clue as to what it is saving as a result of discontinuing a part of the electricity subsidy. And so it doesn't allow us even understand where exactly government is putting these funds and how it's using instruments of states to disburse these funds. It's part of the issues we're talking about. If you look at the audit regime, auditing is a very core and important function of public financial management. In fact, after all of these funds have been spent, right, there needs to be a financial audit, there needs to be a performance audit, a compliance audit. As I speak to you, the most recent audit report is that for the 2020 year. So it means for 2021, 2022.
You've got to be kidding me.
There is no audit report. We have no clue as to where things went wrong. So
we have another auditor general. We've had auditor generals come and go. So you're telling me that in almost 3.5 years, we've not had any audit from the federal to tell us how our monies have gone, in what direction they've gone.
From the federal government in the last 3 years.
Blimey.
Right? None. And this survey highlighted, that we have one of the worst, audit regimes in the world, and this is driven by the lack of financial and operational autonomy that the office of an auditor general requires. That office, is one that is very instrumental to ensuring that there is financial discipline, that the rule of law is applied to how public finance is executed, or how funds are raised and spent. And so where your audit is weak, people know that they can, embezzle resources from the state. If they are very tidy about it and, there's no audit, they can get away with it. Now, if it takes that long for you to now look at the books, some people would have died, some people would have relocated abroad, like, a lot of our public office holders do.
Wow.
And then it's very difficult for you to, to get them to come and answer to crimes that they have committed. You have people who left the good luck, regime, who had been indicted. Until date, the state has been trying to access them to come and have them answer to purported crimes that they have committed. And, it's to no avail. So leaving these things unchecked for a very long time doesn't even allow you to identify where the leakages are going on, where you need to close the tap, and where you need to, sort of remedy the situation in a timely manner.
Wow. I mean, I'm never one that would not know what to say, but I'm really at a loss for words, because in 3 years, we've not had anyone able to tell us what directions our monies have gone to. And this is also detail for states. It's shocking.
No, for the states, it's different with the states.
So
right?
do we have states that have up-to-date audited accounts, especially because most of them are probing? For example, Kaduna is about to probe. Rivers is about to probe. I don't know about other states.
Yeah, so the good thing with programs like the SIFTAS program, I don't know if you are familiar with that program, which was a state fiscal transparency and accountability program for results, right? That sort of incentivized the states to carry out very important fiscal reforms. That program sort of mandated state governments to put out, whether it's their budgets, their pre-budget statements, their
just hold that thought. I want us to come back and talk about the SIFTAS program briefly, but we have to go on a quick break. Iniobong Usen is with Budgit, and we're talking about open budget and transparency. We'll be right back after this break.
Get breaking news, updates, and the best of talk.
Women have to work twice, even thrice as hard for them to get things that just come so naturally to a lot of men who feel that leadership is their right.
We're in prisons for how many years?
For 6 years, 8 months.
Were you going to court from prisons then?
Yes, but before I started court, it took me 2 years.
Just being in prison?
Yes.
Without your case even start at all?
Confinement.
You were there?
Yeah.
Here on your number one station for talk, 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
There's a reason why over 1 million people tune into Heart Drive.
Helps Mom pour her love in the tasty, nourishing meals she cooks for her family. Golden Terra Oil, pour pure love.
Are you ready to ignite your career in the media industry? Wazobia Academy Spark program is back and better than ever. Registration opens 20th of May and closes 24th of June. Physical classes hold on Wednesday 26th to 28th of June. Spark 2.0 is offering 3 incredible courses running simultaneously: becoming an OAP, series writing, and video shooting and editing. 16,000 naira only for each course, covering both online learning and 3-day physical training. What are you waiting for? Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to kickstart your career in the creative industry. Visit www.wazobiacademy.com/Spark 2.0 to register or send a WhatsApp message to 0908-826-5038 or call 0911-111-1221. Terms and conditions apply. Wazobia Academy. Learn and lead.
Consistent taste for cooking mouth-watering soups, stews, and jollof. Choose wisely. Choose Gold. Terra Gold Seasoning Cube.
1 cube. Endless possibilities. Terra Gold.
New Lafarge Water Shield Cement now confirm. Number 1 waterproof cement for Nigeria. Yeah. Obonge cement for waterlogged areas. Number 1 waterproof cement for Nigeria. Yeah. New Lafarge Water Shield Cement number 1. New Lafarge waterproof cement now confirm. 1 time. Put full stop for water wahala. With Lafarge Water Shield Cement, water go collect. If water jam house, or the shade. Foundation and basement to call. No shaking. Obonge cement for waterlogged areas. Number 1 waterproof cement for Nigeria. Lafarge, not confirm. Cement, new Lafarge Water Shield Cement not confirm.
Put full stop for water wahala.
That special secret that awakens taste buds. Mouth-watering wonder with awesome aroma. Terra Seasoning Cubes.
Terra Seasoning Cube turns your meals into a masterpiece.
Unwrap joy, unleash taste. Hey, come cook with Terra Cubes. Come cook with Terra.
Who thinks you can't have it all with one play?
I got that defined boy. You have just won yourself.
Congratulations.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, Melitus. One player, don't talk to 2 players because you won 20K.
So now you won yourself 20,000 naira.
My name is Well Done.
Okay, well done. You want to tell you, well done. You won yourself 20,000 naira.
With 500 naira, you can play to win big. From 120,000 naira to 190,000 naira daily on Nigeria Info. Go to oneplay.ng and play with 500 naira. And in a few seconds, your ticket is in the draw. Or dial *347*880*3#. Win daily on Nigeria Info. 50,000 naira on Money Crossfire. 60,000 naira on WhatsApp Lagos. 20,000 naira on Sunnyside. And 60,000 naira on Game On. So Lagos, what are you waiting for? The more you play, the better your chances of winning. Remember to dial *347 *880 *3 hash. Play responsibly. Not suitable for persons under the age of 18.
5 Alive Poppy. So much pop. So many ways to pop it. He gulps it. She chews it. He slurps it. Filled with pulp in every bowl, everyone pops it their way. So, how do you pop it?
Get in here, parents, teachers, and school principals. The Hares Insurance SA Championship is back. Your child could win 5 million Naira scholarship and prizes for their school in the 2024 SA Championship. To enter, simply get your child to write a 500-word essay on the topic, "If I Could Invent Something New," and submit the essay on www.hairsinsurancegroup.com/essay. Hares is spelled HEIRS. The competition is open to students in JSS 1 to JSS 3 only. Application deadline is July 7, 2024. The Hares Insurance SA Championship is brought to you by Hares Insurance Group. For more details, visit www.hairsinsurancegroup.com.
Cowbell of creamy goodness.
Enjoy the delicious creamy goodness of Cowbell. Cowbell contains Vitarich and vitamin B9, which supports brain development. Use Cowbell in your tea, cereal, pap, and other meals of choice. Cowbell, so creamy, so good.
Tell me which kind thing Viva no fi wash away, 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 away. Jenna tomato paste or coffee stain your body. Viva go wash away, 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 away. Chicken for your clothes now all you need for Viva to wash away, 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 away. Eh, gentle for your pocket, gentle for your hand. Oh my Viva, you couldn't make you shine. Oh Viva, Viva. Oh no no. I love my Viva, oh Viva. Oh no no. Uncle say bye bye to very tough stage, yo. Oh no no. Mama say bye bye to any kind stage, yo. Oh no no. Oh Viva, Viva. Oh no no. I love my Viva, Viva. Oh no no.
Everyone says I'm beautiful and bold. They say I'm fashionable. And to crown it up, very confident. And my secret is...
People say I'm good looking, funny, hardworking, and to crown it up, very confident. And my secret is...
So whether in the office or at home,
in the streets or on the dance floor,
anytime, any day, I never lose my confidence. And the secret to my confidence is Wazobia perfume.
absolutely. Wazobia perfume gives the authenticity and long-lasting fragrance all day. That's my secret confidence.
Wazobia perfume is available in body spray.
Also available in supermarkets and markets near you.
You can also get it on Jumia.
Wazobia perfume, the correct scent.
Chinedu! Don't worry, Ma. He'll be home on time, just like his dad. I'm cooking their favorite jollof with Sonia tomato mix. They are here.
Hey, is that jollof ready?
Right on time. Your loved ones will always rush home for tasty meals prepared with Sonia tomato mix.
It's so good eating together with a family.
Yes, Ma. Sonia tomato mix brings you together. Proudly Nigerian.
The regular football season is over, but not for us here at Supersport. We've got a big deal coming your way. Euro 2024. Witness football's biggest names, Saka, Mbappe, Ronaldo, and many more battle it out in 51 trillion matches enjoyed on DSTV. Stay connected to watch it live from the 14th of June to the 14th of July on Supersport. Now that's a big deal. Watch teams bow to no one in Euro 2024. Available on all DSTV packages. DSTV, your home of sport.
Here you go, dear.
Mom,
You didn't add milk.
No need to. Taste it and see why.
Wow, but how?
Is it milky?
Very.
Is it creamy?
Yes.
That's Milo 3-in-1 milky and creamy for you. It's so milky. I don't need to add more milk.
I love it, Mommy.
Give your kids the new Milo 3-in-1. Milky and creamy. It's truly milky. It contains calcium to help your champ win every day. Milo, energy to go further. Milo.
Meals have a way of taking us on a journey. And when you add plenty of vegetables like efo, ugu, and season with the rich taste of North seasoning cubes, even better.
So, go ahead and elevate your meals with more vegetables and the rich taste of Knorr cubes. Today, eat for good.
Bridging the gap between people and those in authority. With Hard Facts, you are sure to get only the facts.
Tune in to Hard Facts with Maryann Okon on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
All right, well, it's still Hard Facts, 99.3 Nigeria Info, and this is A's and Nays. And on A's and Nays today, we're talking about Nigeria's ranking when it comes to open budgets and, of course, the where we are in the global index. Because, like I said, we keep talking about how open our budgets should be, but are our budgets really, indeed, open? Plus, my guest has been talking to us about even the audits of the federal accounts have been not done since 2020. I'm still in awe. Since 2020, the federal government has not audited its accounts. And we're in 2024. We're in June of 2024. Thank goodness he talked about the sifters. I want to talk about the sifters here now. Iniobong Usen is of Budgit. Iniobong, you were telling us about the sifters program. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so with the SIFTAS program, the states were incentivized to carry out certain reforms, right, around openness, around transparency, around building their domestic resource mobilization capacity. Mm-hmm. But on the transparency leg of things, states were incentivized to release their public budgets, to release their budget implementation reports, to release their audited financial statements, which has their audit reports, embedded in it for some of the states. And so since 2018, we've seen an increase in the availability of data from the states, right? So by the 31st or by 30th of July, the following year, by the 36 states usually have their audited financial statements released to the public. Mm-hmm. But that program ended in 2022, and Budgit commenced a fiscal transparency league, mm-hmm. right, as a sustainability.
Yes, to carry on from where the SIFTAS program left off.
From where the SIFTAS program ended.
Yeah.
And you would ask, how viable has that been? It would interest you to know that activity that Budgit carried on after the SIFTAS program had wrapped up actually put states on their toes. So by the time we put out the charts and it shows that these states out of 3 states, they're one of the 3 states out of 36 states that have not released their budget implementation reports. The commissioners of finance or the commissioners for budget and planning would start running helter-skelter, find a way to release it to the public quickly. And that's how you can now see that somebody is spending 90 billion on refreshments, like you said. I have not seen the reports. But without those reports being in public domain, there's no way you would know that this humongous amount of money is spent frivolously or spent, on activities that do not align with the priorities of people. So it's important that these reports continue to be in the public domain and are available in formats that are easy to analyze, because that's also a very important component. If you are familiar with how the federal government releases its budgets, usually it releases it in a machine readable format. But for the 2024 budget, I don't know if it was deliberate. You had over 2,000 pages scanned and uploaded to the budget office website. Now, for people who do data analysis, that document is useless because it's almost impossible for you to read the data, triangulate it, and make sense of how government is trying, has allocated resources, trying to spend. If you want to search for, specific budget lines or the budget of specific ministries, it's impossible to do that. Meaning you have to comb through over 2,000 pages to have an idea of what government is spending on any activity or any program, as the case may be. And that's why it's best practice that not only are you releasing these documents to the public, but you are releasing them in a format that people can make sense of at the end of the day.
Do you think this might be deliberate so that they're just doing it because, hey, we have to, but then they do it in a way that is so difficult for you to be able to, streamline and be able to catch them in their padding of, whatever figures it is? For example, what the Punch newspaper was able to come by. I mean, the fact that you're saying that these documents are not put out in a way that you can easily make sense of it, could it be deliberate?
It has to be deliberate because people are not able to analyze or they are not able to make sense of what you put in the public. And so the scrutiny is less. People will just, comb for straws and, it's left at that. But if the budget is put out in such a way that you're able to do your analysis, triangulate the data, you're able to make more sense of the data. And then you can now take, sort of informed position, on the issues. If you notice when that issue happened with the Senator Ningi saga, it took us a while to respond because we were combing through the over 2,000 pages, trying to do what we could with what was available to, make sense of the data. If you also notice the trend with Budgit this year, a lot of our analysis around the budget came out very late because for almost 2 months, we were writing out figures. These were things that, you would just scan, triangulate the data and make sense of it. But we had to practically be writing out figures, on pieces of paper from 2,000 pages. It's almost impossible. You have to be dogged, you have to really, enjoy what you are doing.
It's a lot of hard work. Let's talk solutions. I want to open up the phone lines because I have just 12 minutes on the clock. Lagos, the phone lines are open. You can ask my guests whatever you want to ask because this is more like a brainstorming session between you and us. And of course, how we can find solutions to getting our leaders to be responsible to us and not always looking for ways to wiggle out of being responsible or transparent or accountable. And so let's talk. Like I always say, this is more of a solution finding conversation. So 0201-277-0993, 0201-277-1993, 0201-277-2993, 0277-3993. You can send me a message on WhatsApp. We're live on YouTube and facebook.com/Nigeria Info FM. If you're listening from outside of the country and you want to be part of the conversation, call us via Skype. It's Nigeria Info FM. But the phone lines are open right now. We're talking about transparency in our budget. And of course, on WhatsApp, you can send me a message, 0809-5975805. Send me a message. Ini, I'm going to come back to you so we can talk about solutions. Hello. Welcome to A's and Nays.
Maryann, good evening.
Good evening. What's your name, sir? Where are you calling from?
My auditor is my name. I'm calling from Lekki.
All right, go ahead.
What are the people's right to call for due diligence as in procurement? We have seen a situation where the government is not going for tendering or bidding of any sort, and contracts are coming in and going out. What is the consequence of this to the public? That's my question. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for calling. Ini, are there any consequences? Do we have the powers to say, well, this particular procurement process was wonky or it didn't even happen and we want due process to be followed? Is there a way, an avenue for us to call for that?
So I'll start from the consequences. The consequences is poor service delivery. There was a report put out by the World Bank in 2001, and the facts have not changed. That Nigeria loses 40 naira from every 60 naira it earns to procurement fraud. Yes, that's staggering. So you are losing 40% of the revenues you make to procurement fraud. And you see that manifest, across the length and breadth of the country. People who collect contracts or win contracts to build roads that are supposed to last for 10 years before you start maintaining the roads. And in 3 months, the road is unmotorable. What happens to the funds that were deployed in building those roads?
Wow.
Government embarks on white elephant projects that it is unable to complete. Now, mind you, this was money that could have been deployed to building schools, to improving the welfare of teachers. I mean, we're talking minimum wage at the moment. And internally, we're doing a fiscal space analysis. Where can government actually see money to pay the improved minimum wage that they intend to? Because there's waste across the entire budget, right? Where do you identify this waste to be able to pay, workers what they are due, to be able to pay teachers what they are due, pay doctors what they are due? So the consequence of, not going about procurement the right way, making it open, making it cost effective, getting value for money, is that you spend a lot of money on projects on infrastructure that people at the end of the day cannot benefit from.
They may not benefit
against
from.
Spending, on areas that improve the lives of livelihoods of people, whether it, offers improved access to healthcare, improve access to education. Look at power. We're talking about power today. For the past how many years we've been on 4.5 gigawatts of power every, that's delivered to the grid.
Mm-hmm.
It is preposterous. We couldn't have been a democracy for this long, and legacy issues like this that are very, very important to economic growth. There's hardly any business you can do in this country without power. And we are talking about economic growth. You have not been able to tackle power. You've not been able to tackle infrastructure. We are looking at inflation with food inflation at the moment, where people are trying to transport goods from the food basket, and there are no motorable roads. Somebody will be transporting a perishable good, and it will fall somewhere between Auchi, and Lagos, and
wow.
Millions worth of goods just go to waste. It doesn't make any sense. And so that's why the very little resources that we have should be deployed in such a way that we maximize those resources and not put it to waste the way you've seen government utilize these things.
All right.
Look at what has happened with the pilgrimage, right? The 90 billion naira. Couldn't this have been money that you would deploy to even improving the lives and livelihood?
That's a different conversation on its own, if you ask me, Nee. That's a whole different conversation. But let me take one quick call before we come back to you. Hello.
Hi, Maryann.
Good evening.
Yeah, this is Remy.
Remy, go ahead.
Listening to your guest.
Yes, you can hear you.
You don't enter one chance, whether I would like it or not. You don't enter one chance. Just yesterday, we discussed the role of the arm of government. Just yesterday. They've skewed the system such that the people are in helpless, kind of. The polls ought to be the place to get them punished, but they've also worked it out that they can use the polls in their favor. So I would have said, let us punish them through the polls in the next election. But you and I can guarantee that, because we all know how the system works. Just look at what your guest said. 2020 was the last time they audited their account. The word transparency and the government shouldn't appear in the same sentence. It shouldn't appear. They can't be transparent. Things are even far worse than, they met it. Yeah, we don't have one chance, so I don't even have a solution to prefer. Good evening.
Thank you very much, Remy, for calling. Someone says I should ask you, by the way, we have just 2 minutes before we go, Ini. Someone says I should ask you how credible the information that comes from the government is, be it audit reports, expenditure, etc. Knowing the kind of government we have, he says, I think many of the figures are cooked up to deceive the public. Chooks, Ini.
Well, I can't. I don't have any evidence to prove that. And that's why the job of an auditor general is important. It's only an auditor general that can check to see if what government says it has raised and it has spent is what it is, right? If what it even spent it on was up to specification, because you could have spent the money, but what you said you were going to spend it on, you didn't meet the specification, right? Then he would also check if you went through the, you complied with the
due process
rules or due process in how you went about it. It's only the audit process that can unearth, if government has been, very sincere with how it has deployed resources to solve the myriad of society's, challenges. And if we do not have that process terminate, the entire budget process or, that goes along the public financial management value chain, then it means that you have these issues open-ended. We do not see these things to a logical conclusion. And that's why you see that we've lost a lot to, corruption. We've lost a lot to illicit financial flows. And until we begin to address these issues, there's very little progress we would make in terms of development.
I wish I wish we could continue having this conversation, but unfortunately, time is not on our side. But we will revisit this issue again. This time, maybe we'll talk about auditing of the Federation's account. Maybe that's what we should talk about next, and the consequences. Iniobong Usen, I beg your pardon. Hey, it has happened again. Is the head research and policy advisory at Budgit. Thank you so much, Iniobong, for being here, and great work that you're doing in Budgit. Hopefully, we can come back and talk about auditing our Federation's account.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Well, before we leave you, Lagos, there's some information for you that you need if you must make money.
Yes, Lagos. If you
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria FM and Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.